Why are we fascinated by time travel?
Well, you know, people very often ask me, why am I interested in time? I say, well, because I've always lived in it.
Yeah, right.
And we feel very trapped in it. It's like we try and hang on to the moment. We take photographs of everything.
Right,
we take,
right.
We desperately want to hang on to this reality, and it recedes.
Yeah.
What time travel allows us to do is to say, okay, but what if we could? What if we could preserve that moment? What if we could revisit that moment? Genuinely.
Well, that's all science fiction is about. What if?
Yes.
What if we could travel through time?
I haven't got time for this Mickey Mouse bullshit!
Time is relative, okay? It can stretch and it can squeeze, but it can't run backwards. Incorrect. Right. I'm right. That's the finished ours.
Oi, oi! Follow me, colony! Today I'm gonna invert and break down a commonly misunderstood masterpiece from writer-director Christopher Nolan. And that movie is Tenet. Tenet is a story that takes place in the middle of a trilogy. It has no prequel or no finale.
Stay with me.
You're never meant to see the past or the future, only the present. If we were using the Nolan verse as a linear tracker, then Oppenheimer is the past, Tenet is the present, and Interstellar is the future.
Stay with me.
Christopher Nolan purposely gives you a lot of ambiguity, but I'm here to fill in the gaps. But before we get started, the stats and the algorithm are showing that you lot are watching but not interacting as much as you could. So do yourselves a favour, hit the fucking bell, sub to the channel and give this video a like.
I like it, you.
We do this to keep the hive alive. So, before my time is up and I'm gone,
Let's get it on!
Part 1, the past.
There is not one universe. There are many. A multiverse. The trick is to find one and focus on it.
Yeah, no. Well, that one.
Compliance.
Before time began.
Sunset.
Let there be light, heat, magnetism, gravity, and all the energies of the universe.
This causes a
Reaction.
It's perfectly consistent with current theory. Everything starts with a big bang, right? And the universe starts expanding.
Our whole universe was in a hot, dense state that nearly 14 billion years ago expansion started.
There were more than a dozen extinction-level events before even the dinosaurs got theirs.
This is the Earth at a time when the dinosaurs roamed a lush and fertile planet. A piece of rock just 6 miles wide changed all that.
When the Earth starts to settle, God throws a stone at it.
It hit with the force of 10,000 nuclear weapons.
Chain reaction.
1 trillion tons of dirt and rock hurtled into the atmosphere, creating a suffocating blanket of dust the sun was powerless to penetrate for 1,000 years.
okay. Approximately 65 million years later, Earth is still the third rock from the sun. Sunlight takes 8 minutes to reach our planet, creating heat, photosynthesis, and it also irradiates metals, one of which will one day be known as uranium.
It's a matter of harnessing the energy of light.
Earth has various forms of life who exist in a three-dimensional space. The 3 dimensions are height, length, and width. And everything is slave to the 4th dimension, time.
Evolution. Began to cool, the autotrophs began to drool, and calls developed.
Where's your tool?
100,000 BC. Stone tools.
Early stage of evolution. Future uncertain.
Through natural selection, Homo sapiens have opposable thumbs, cognitive thought, and developed speech. Amongst other things, we're conscious of our own mortality.
On a long enough timeline, the survival rate for everyone drops to 0.
We originate from the continent of Africa,
the black tribe that established the first society on the planet,
and eventually migrate outwards into distant lands.
while you European motherfuckers were still hiding in caves and shit, all terrified of the sun.
Human beings find shelter in caves, but their communities live in fear of predatory animals. At first, we could only eat fruits and vegetables that we gathered until lightning struck a tree and gave us... Or, if you believe Greek mythology, the gods gave us fire, and man, instead of being grateful and humble, is all like,
Yeah! Look what I have created!
So Zeus, being the bastard that he is, takes it away.
Cover all the names on a second darkness.
Prometheus, the titan craftsman of Olympus, disagrees with Zeus's fiery decision.
One of you mugs got a light?
Got a match? Well, I do. Your face to my ass.
The fire that danced at the end of that match was a gift from the Titan Prometheus. A gift that he stole from the gods, who were terrified of what we might do with it were it to fall into our hairy little paws. When Prometheus was caught and brought to justice for his theft, the gods, you might say, they overreacted.
Who has placed you in this torment?
Zeus. My only crime was helping mankind. When I took the fires of Olympus to the mortals, Zeus considered it a betrayal. As punishment, he made me mortal.
The poor man was tied to a rock.
And condemned me to be savagely consumed every day.
As an eagle ripped through his belly and ate his liver over and over, day after day, ad infinitum.
And then, with the fall of night, I am healed. How long have I been here? How long have I suffered this curse?
All because he gave us fire. Our first true piece of technology. Fire. Such a very long time ago. Which begs the question, what have we done with it?
Fire helped man with his rapid development. Humans create weapons and tools to hunt animals for meat and clothing. Thanks to the flames, they could now cook what they killed. This provided protein, iron, zinc and B12 vitamins, giving us increased energy. Humanity begins to dominate nature in its selected territories, and Prometheus is forever known as the rebel of Mount Olympus.
100,000 BC, stone tools. 4,000 BC, the wheel.
People start developing complex writing and begin making instruments to subdivide days into hours for timekeeping.
800 BC, sundial.
6th century BC, Sun Tzu's The Art of War features the first recorded mention of the pincer movement.
Wait a minute. Oh.
The pincer move was first successfully executed by Alexander the Great against the Indian king Poros. 2 Macedonian units trapped the Curry cavalry in a pincer-like squeeze by flanking them. The pincer move becomes a staple of military tactics. 300 BC. Physicist, inventor, mathematician, engineer and astronomer Archimedes has a discovery regarding buoyancy while scrubbing his balls in the bath.
It is said that Archimedes was so delighted by his discovery that he cried, "Eureka!" I found it and ran out naked into the street.
Eureka!
Pompeii, 79 AD. When Mount Vesuvius erupted, the volcano released thermal energy that in turn spewed molten rock, pumice and hot fucking ash clouds all over Pompeii and Herculaneum.
That's hot.
When the dust finally settled, one of the only objects left miraculously intact was the Tenet Square. Found in the rubble of Herculaneum was an ancient palindromic puzzle. A palindrome is something that looks the same forwards and backwards. The square palindromic puzzle can be rotated and still be read from top to bottom, left to right and vice versa. The puzzle reads Sator, Arepo, Tenet, Opera and Rotas. Rotas is Sator backwards, Opera is Arepo backwards.
That allows us to get right in the middle of that process.
And Tenet is spelt the same both forwards and backwards. Their origins have remained a mystery and have intrigued scholars for generations.
9th century AD, gunpowder. Bit of a game changer, that one.
Bullet may not seem like much, but it's a simple machine. Lead bullet, brass casing, gunpowder.
1441, the printing press.
In 1441, the printing press gives us the ability to document events for posterity. 1712.
Steam engine. Railway.
The locomotive allows humans to travel in mass across great distances, saving precious time and energy. In 1789, a German chemist was analysing minerals in a Bohemian silver mine located in modern-day Chechnya.
I cannot believe that I actually have a Chechen standing here. Hello?
He discovered a radioactive metal and named his discovery uranium, after the planet Uranus.
What's it all this? I've had enough of this rowdy, rebel, niggling behaviour. Silence!
1822. With a bright flash of light burning an image into film, the first photograph is taken, giving us the ability to capture a moment in time.
We try and hang on to the moment. We take photographs of everything.
Yeah, and I know what you're thinking. If this is the first camera, who took this little snapshot?
Inquiring minds want to know. It's a mystery wrapped in a riddle inside an enigma. The fucking shooters don't even know. Don't you get it?
In 1865, physicist and mathematician Rudolf Clausius came up with the concept of the thermodynamic system.
Stay with me.
He argued that in any irreversible process, heat and energy are released and dispersed. The second law of thermodynamics states that molecules and atoms start off organised and will become more disorganised in any system's boundaries over time, aka the amount of atomic disorganisation in any system.
Right? You know what that is?
Yeah.
Everyone knows.
No.
Okay. For example, the molecules in ice will be mostly organised, compacted together in a state of
Low transformation.
If the ice starts to heat up, then the matter will transform from a solid into a liquid, disorganising the molecules. Continue to heat the liquid and the energy will dissipate in the steam molecules. Inspired by these states of transformation, Rudolf Clausius named this concept entropy. It's widely accepted as the arrow of time. This process is irreversible as entropy only ever increases moving forward with time.
Low entropy
means the molecules are concentrated. As time goes on, means the molecules have spread outwards, moving forward as heat and energy have now been released and dispersed.
You got it?
Yeah.
Nah, I didn't think so. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing and you're handing out junk mail. Now get off my desk. You know you're wearing a striped shirt with a striped tie. You know that, right?
Yeah, I do it for the ladies.
Oh, do the ladies ever tell you that you look like a fucking optical illusion? Yeah? Go away. Disappear. Come on.
I'm out of here.
Maxwell's
Existence, in all its form and splendor, functions solely on one principle. God is infallible. To prove him wrong would undo reality and everything that is.
1867. James Clerk Maxwell started a thought experiment and argued, what if an imaginary creature controlled a dividing door between two chambers? This little bastard can open a door and travel between the chambers.
What's the big deal? It doesn't hurt anybody.
Bit by bit, it moves molecules from the right chamber into the left chamber.
Can I ask a question?
Good, what?
What's the big fucking deal, bitch? Yeah.
The big fucking deal is this would mean
What?
that theoretically the entropy in the system's boundaries have now decreased or gone backwards over time as the atoms would become more compact and organised as linear time moved forward.
So?
This defiant act against nature's law would invert entropy, disproving the second law of thermodynamics that we all live by.
Fuck.
Yeah. British mathematician Lord Kelvin later called this theoretical creature who inverted the mechanics of the world a demon. Maxwell's demon. This fallen angel would in a sense reverse reality and the laws of physics as we know and understand them.
Read them and understand them!
This could make reality itself paradoxical.
Up would become down, black would become white. Existence would become nothingness.
Now this is all theoretical of course, but
In essence,
if anyone did figure out a way to achieve this,
they'll unmake the world.
What the fuck?
Well, thank you for that scientific analysis, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, well, you don't need to fucking figure it out, do ya? All right, Doc. When you break all the laws of physics, you seriously think there won't be a prize? Read them and understand them!
Now, for an actual bright idea. In 1879, Thomas Edison made an incandescent bulb that burned long enough to be practical for lighting the home for many hours. Side note, it's now traditional to shout Eureka when making a scientific discovery.
Eureka, the light bulb!
And now, did you know that the very first assembly of photographs in sequential order to create a motion picture was a 2-second clip of a black man on a horse? Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Look it up.
In 1888, Edward Muybridge shot the first motion picture when he lined up 24 cameras connected to tripwires as a jockey rode a horse into frame. The film was then developed and projected onto a screen for an audience on the zoo practoscope. Roll the film. The motion picture gave birth to the movie and made film an art form. The very art form that inspired me to make this channel. Movies are dream-like stories with no real beginning or ending. The concept is simple and as follows. Part 1, the beginning. We get thrown into a story with little to no information and begin our journey.
Let me ask you a question. You never really remember the beginning, do you? You always wind up right in the middle of what's going on.
I guess, yeah.
Part 2, the middle. We get fed information and go along for the ride with a destination in mind.
I like this. I'm feeling this shit. I like this. I like this. No. Give me more. Give me more.
And part 3, the end. We arrive at the story's climax and all is revealed. 1890. Scientist and inventor Nikola Tesla, during his beef with Thomas Edison, is commissioned to make a machine for an illusionist as part of his act.
If I were to build for you this machine, you would be presenting it merely as illusion?
Well, if people actually believe the things I did on stage, they wouldn't clap, they'd scream. I mean, think of sawing a woman in half.
The rich magician wanted to create the illusion of teleportation, seemingly leaping through space and time for a bewildered and paying audience.
Mr. Angier, have you considered the cost of such a machine?
Price is not an object.
Perhaps not, but have you considered the cost?
The road to hell is paved with good intentions, thus is the hubris of man.
Well, Tesla is just a fantastic figure, just an extraordinary life, extraordinary man. He was right about so many things. I mean, the alternating current that we all use today was his invention. Tesla was right about a lot of things, but a lot of his ideas ultimately were rejected by the scientific community of the day.
You are familiar with the phrase, man's reach exceeds his grasp. Is a lie. Man's grasp exceeds his nerve. Society only tolerates one change at a time.
The machine that Tesla builds as a magician's prestige has some unexpected side effects.
No, wait, I'm not... I told you I could make your machine, I spoke a simple truth.
Then why isn't the machine working?
Because exact science, Mr. Angier, is not an exact science. The machine simply does not operate as expected. It requires further examination.
Instead of transporting material, the machine makes a copy and creates a clone.
Extraordinary achievement, really. I mean, he's somebody who did things that still haven't been fully explained today. So there's a great sense of mystery, a great aura of scientific possibilities that were raised and perhaps not followed fully for various reasons. There's a great deal of mystery to the man that people have enormous fascination with.
What I really liked about Tesla was that during his lifetime, he built and patented many inventions, which he then buried in secrecy, and they've never emerged.
And in the future, we don't need horses. We have motorized carriages called automobiles.
Later in 1896, Henry Ford took his invention for a spin on the streets of Motown in Old Detroit.
You Motor City motherfuckers!
This machine gives humans the ability to independently travel faster than previously thought possible.
If everybody's got one of these does anybody walk or run anymore?
Of course we run, but for recreation, for fun.
Run for fun? What the hell kind of fun is that?
Fucking dickheads. Automobiles save humans massive amounts of energy and time.
And that actually is Henry Ford there, driving off the assembly line.
In 1905, there were hundreds of professors renowned for their study of the universe, but it was a 26-year-old Swiss patent clerk doing physics in his spare time who changed the world.
At the dawn of the 20th century, Albert Einstein, while surrounded by his relatives, creates and publishes the theory of special relativity. Einstein formulated that time and space are relative. Thus, he theorized that the laws of physics are the same everywhere.
What? Stay with me. Yes, science!
His most famous equation, E equals mc squared, means that energy is the same thing as mass and vice versa.
What the fuck?
So that means that mass can be converted into energy and vice versa. In other words, the energy in a tiny amount of mass can equal 90 quadrillionth its size.
Okay, tiny dude is big now. He's big now.
What it's basically saying is you only need a little bit of mass to create a massive amount of energy.
Well, let's just break that down.
No, wait.
Let's just break it down.
Okay, a tiny piece of mass made up of a massive amount of atoms can transform from its three-dimensional physical form by being triggered on an atomic level to create a massive amount of pure energy.
Right, well, using layman's terms,
E equals M just means energy equals mass.
You got it? Yeah.
But the way to calculate how much energy is actually in that mass is to times the amount of material by c squared. And just to be clear, c is the mathematical term for light, and it comes from the word celerity, which is Latin for swift or quick.
Nothing can travel faster than the speed of light.
So c squared is the speed of light times itself.
Layman's terms.
Well, fuck layman's terms. Do you speak English?
So, to sum it all up, to find out how much energy a piece of matter potentially holds, you have to take how big it is and then times it by 90 quadrillion. Smash the like button while I prepare a visual demonstration.
See, that figure just came to the top of
Let's just say for argument's sake.
Just 0.5 grams of liquid can be triggered on an atomic level to be converted into a massive amount of energy. What's reaction is, well, energetic.
Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. What Einstein actually said was that nothing can accelerate to the speed of light because its mass would become infinite.
The law of relativity prohibits faster than light travel.
relativity, yes, we can't break the law of relativity.
Einstein said nothing about entities already traveling at the speed of light or faster. Many times that speed. Various multiples of c.
In search of answers, Einstein accidentally unlocked the door to the quantum realm, the microverse.
Greatest scientific mind of our time.
It's a matter of harnessing the energy of light. I know that sounds crazy to you. You beings are eons away from discovering light travel.
Albert's theories have inspired scientists ever since, for better or worse.
The battle for Earth is about to begin.
Are you ready to begin?
This is a war, man.
War.
In 1914, World War I, otherwise known as the Great War, begins. It's fought by air, land and sea and remains one of the deadliest conflicts in human history. That being said, the First World War was a time of innovation. Advancements in military technology and weaponry provoked tactical changes as each side tried to gain the upper hand. WW1 claimed the lives of 8 million military personnel and 6.6 million civilians. 1917. Ernest Rutherford was the first guy to create an artificial nuclear reaction at the University of Manchester shortly after the structure of the atom had been discovered.
Chain reaction.
1918, World War I comes to an end. 1922, Niels Bohr is awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics for his atomic model.
Quantum physics is not a step forward, it's a new way to understand reality.
His structure of the atom is the first to use quantum theory.
Einstein's opened the door, now we are peering through, seeing a world inside our world.
His understanding of atomic structure,
can you hear it?
Inspires a young student physicist
Robert,
to start seeing the world in a new way.
A world of energy and paradox that not everyone can accept.
can you hear it?
What?
Can you hear it?
Yes, I can.
1925.
Your big break in TV.
One day through television, the entire world will stream into our living rooms with the velocity of light.
Don't sit too close. 1928. The first Olympic torch is lit and used to signal the start of the Olympic Games and to pay homage to the Titan Prometheus. Nuclear fission was discovered in 1938 by a couple of old German scientists. This discovery causes another
chain reaction.
The news spreads fast.
What? What is it?
They've done it. They've done it. Hahn and Strassman in Germany. They split the uranium nucleus.
How?
Bombarded with neutrons. It's a nuclear fission. They did it. They split the atom.
What we need's another war.
1939.
So it's our job to observe the rules of the sequel. Number 1, the body count is always bigger. Number 2, death scenes are always much more elaborate. More blood, more gore.
In 1940, Richard Feynman, a theoretical physicist in quantum electrodynamics, gets a call from his colleague John Wheeler.
What do they call you? Wheels?
Yeah. And Wheeler's all like,
Yo, Dick, do you remember when you said electrons are particles that hold a negative charge and positrons are antiparticles that have the same mass as electrons with equal yet a positive charge?
Yeah.
Well, what if electrons and positrons are actually the same thing? They both might be manifestations of a single entity moving backwards and forwards in time.
Is that you, Tolbert?
What?
This is very funny, you know. I'm hungover.
What maniac thinks like that? Really?
And if you're gonna pull this shit...
Meanwhile, at Berkeley...
Theory will take you only so far.
During the process, extra neutrons boil off, which could be used to split other uranium atoms.
Chain reaction.
Chain reaction.
You're thinking what I'm thinking.
A bomb.
With a little more kick. Plutonium.
Plutonium. Wait a minute.
Later that same year, scientists for the Nazis and the Allies plot to win World War II with an atomic weapon. Uranium was placed in a reactor and bombarded with alpha particles, which the metal absorbed, creating a highly radioactive material.
Are you telling me that this sucker is nuclear?
Nearly all plutonium is man-made and is pretty hard to come by.
You don't just walk into a store and buy plutonium.
Plutonium was named after Pluto. No, not the dog, and despite flat earther popular beliefs, it's not actually a planet anymore, because that theory has been debunked by Rick and Morty.
You asked him if Pluto's a planet, didn't you?
No!
It's not. Shut up, Rick. Whoa! I don't care what anyone says. If it can be a planet, it can be a planet again. Planet. Planet, planet, planet.
In 1945, a theoretical physicist named John Robert Oppenheimer, with the help of his team at Los Alamos, New Mexico, created the world's first atomic weapon. A plutonium core the size of a bowling ball was placed inside an explosive device dubbed the Gadget. Oppenheimer's team were apprehensive and shared their calculations with Einstein. They feared a small probability that the explosion caused by the bomb could create a chain reaction that could ignite the oxygen-rich atmosphere.
What did Fermi mean by atmospheric ignition? Well, we had a moment where it looked like the chain reaction from an atomic device might never stop, setting fire to the atmosphere.
Come again.
Are we saying there's a chance that when we push that button, we destroy the world? Fuck. The most remote possibility. How remote? Chances are near zero.
Near zero.
What do you want from theory alone? Zero would be nice.
The Trinity tests release approximately 25 kilotons of energy. This signals mankind's entrance into the atomic age.
The power you're about to reveal will forever outlive the Nazis. And the world is not prepared. This isn't a new weapon. It's a new world. You're an American Prometheus, the man who gave them the power to destroy themselves.
England, Russia and America close in on the Nazis using an international pincer movement. Adolf Hitler uses cyanide capsules to kill those closest to him and then catches the bullet train. Despite this, America still decides to drop the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
We intend to demonstrate it in the most unambiguous terms. Twice. Once to show the weapon's power, and a second to show that we can keep doing this until they surrender.
After 6 years of war, America is pushed to the breaking point.
It would be definitive. World War II would be over. Our boys would come home.
Thus, they used the point-break philosophy.
See, it's basic dog psychology. If you scare them and get them peeing down their leg, they submit. Yet if you project weakness, you draw aggression. That's how people get hurt. You see, fear causes hesitation. And hesitation will cause your worst fears to come true. So it's simple. You project strength, to avoid conflict.
Oppenheimer is conflicted as he doesn't want to kill innocent people, but understanding the psychology of man, he thinks this bomb may be the deterrent that ends war altogether.
A pillar of fire, 10,000 feet tall. Deadly neutron effects for a mile, in all directions, from one single device.
Using layman's terms,
Peace through superior firepower.
Yeah, I'd hate to say it, but they got a point. You got a fucking nuke in your back pocket, and every confrontation's pretty much gonna go like this.
Yo, what's going on, Al? What's up, man? What, your posse supposed to be dating there? I said,
This is my boomstick!
do we have a problem? Huh? Brother, you seem easily upset. Oh, you want something too, old man?
No. Get off your ass and get in this car, boy. I don't know why you come down here messing with these people.
Hey, get your stank asses up out of here before I cause a nuclear holocaust up in here, fool. Let's go, let's go. Oh, come on now. Little bit Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Yeah. In early August, American pilots flew the Enola over Japan and dropped the bomb.
Twice.
Just as promised.
After falling for 43 seconds, the time and barometric triggers started the firing mechanism. A uranium bullet fired down a barrel into a uranium target. Together, they started a nuclear chain reaction. Solid matter began to come apart, releasing untold quantities of energy.
The atomic bombs combined killed close to 250,000 civilians. 6 days later, on the 15th of August, the Japanese surrender. 2 weeks after that, WW2 comes to an end. The bomb emitted a flash so bright that when the bodies vaporized, the shadows of the innocent civilians were burned into the walls forever.
Only shadows.
Yeah, well, people said these shadows are like the marks of souls going to heaven.
The shadowy images remain a snapshot in time.
According to the Oxford English Dictionary, the word snapshot was first used in 1808 by an English sportsman by the name of Sir Andrew Hawker. He noted in his diary that almost every bird he shot that day was taken by snapshot, meaning a hurried shot. Snapshot, then, was originally a hunting term.
Your soul is mine.
In this new age of
nuclear weapons,
mankind's future and survival now hangs in the balance.
Viene una tormenta!
Future uncertain.
What did he just say?
He said there's a storm coming in.
I know.
Sometime later, in 1946, whilst working as an advisor to the Atomic Energy Commission, Oppenheimer approaches Einstein, who is throwing stones into a pond. This causes a reaction of ripples that look like shockwaves from a certain perspective. The moment the stone hits the calm surface, a gust of wind blows Einstein's hat off his crazy head of hair just as Oppenheimer approaches him.
I totally get symbolism.
He hands him his hat and the two old friends converse about the possible terrifying implications of their research and combined life's work.
The man of the moment.
Albert. When I came to you with those calculations,
I remember it well.
we thought we might start a chain reaction that would destroy the entire world.
Einstein leaves his legacy behind.
Greatest scientific mind of our time. Of his time. Einstein published his theory of relativity more than 40 years ago now. But never embraced the quantum world it revealed.
The problem is Albert's curiosity has opened Pandora's box.
But the contents, Zeus told her, were not for mortal eyes. She was not to open the box under any circumstance. On Earth, Pandora met and fell in love with Epimetheus, a talented Titan who had been given the task of designing the natural world by Zeus. He had worked alongside his brother Prometheus, who created the first humans, but was eternally punished for giving them fire.
What happened?
And Oppenheimer, the American Prometheus, fears they may have triggered Armageddon.
I believe we did.
We launch, they see us. They launch.
how birds pass each other in the air. Boom. What do you got?
Nuclear war.
Nuclear holocaust.
The Bible calls this day Armageddon, the end of all things. And yet, for the first time in the history of the planet, a species has the technology to prevent its own extinction.
As an atheist, I'll say this. If God does exist, maybe one day he can forgive us for what we've done to each other. In 1947, the arms race with the Soviets begins, triggering the start of the Cold War. This is the era of spies, liars and double agents. Everyone is stockpiling nukes, nobody trusts each other, everybody wants plutonium.
Plutonium is a little hard to come by.
And all involved know that lying is
Standard procedures. We've been through this a dozen times. I don't have any weapons of mass destruction, okay, Hans?
Then let me look around.
Hans, you're breaking my balls here, Hans. You're breaking my balls.
The Cold War remains on ice while humanity lives under constant threat of nuclear holocaust.
We are the children of the atom.
The guilt he feels for his mass murdering creation makes Oppenheimer an advocate against the use of nuclear weapons. Louis Strauss.
It's pronounced Strauss.
The Atomic Energy Commission chairman resents the fuck out of Oppenheimer and secretly orchestrates a humiliating private security hearing.
That if you let them talk and feather you,
When they've punished you enough.
the world will forgive you. It won't.
This hearing, however, turns out to be an ambush which transforms into a kangaroo court trial about Oppenheimer's loyalty regarding communism. They revoke his security clearance, which damages his public image and officially limits his influence on nuclear policy. But in 1954, during Strauss's confirmation for Security of Commerce, he is exposed for causing Oppenheimer's downfall for personal motives, which politically destroys him. As a result, in 1963, Oppenheimer is presented with the Enrico Fermi Award and a public apology. A reputation repair and restoration from a certain perspective. He lived out his final days in New Jersey.
Yeah, boy! Jersey local!
Tied to this rock, it's evident that he remained tortured with guilt for the rest of his days. And during the now infamous television interview on NBC in 1965, Oppenheimer quoted the Bhagavad Gita.
What's this?
Sanskrit.
You can read this?
I'm learning.
Read the words.
And now I am become death.
Now I am become death.
Destroyer of worlds.
The destroyer of worlds. I suppose we all thought that, one way or another.
On the 18th of February 1967, Oppenheimer died. The American Prometheus's legacy continues to reverberate through time. 1975. Betamax is quickly replaced by VHS, which dominates home entertainment. VCRs give us the ability to watch something, pause it, fast forward and rewind it so the viewer can experience the narrative again and again, but the next time you go into it, you already know how it ends. This makes movies, in a sense, emotional and psychological time pincers. Now, the reality is you can't actually change anything in the story because what's happened has happened, unless, of course, you get your hands on some kind of editing equipment. 1976.
I'm bad guy?
Andrei Sater is born.
Bad guy?
This little cunt grows up in northern Siberia.
You're a bad guy.
But fear not.
There's a flip side to that coin.
Why can't you be more like good guy?
Today, we're on to 1984.
True heroes are born in the 80s.
Push, that's it. Congratulations, Dad, it's a boy.
Our story's protagonist is born and his name is...
No, the point is to not answer that. I really wanted to tap into that kind of great tradition of the anonymous protagonist. I mean, for me, it dates back to, the TV show The Prisoner, for example, where he's known by a number 6, known as The Prisoner. I was thinking a lot of Sergio Leone westerns, like with Clint Eastwood, The Man with No Name.
The Cold War continues.
All we need is a little plutonium.
Oh, I'm sure that in 1985, plutonium is available in every corner drugstore.
Luckily, it's not, but inventions are going from strength to strength.
This is truly amazing. A portable television studio.
Geopolitical tensions rise in the silent war of ideology and paranoia.
Red alert. Red alert. Red alert.
You crossed my line of death.
You haven't dismantled your MX stockpile.
Pakistan is threatening my border.
That's it, Buster.
No more military aid.
Nuke them. Get them before they get you.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
In the late 80s, the Berlin Wall falls, with a little help from the Hoff.
I've been looking for freedom.
Finally, the 40-year Cold War comes to a close.
The collapse of the Soviet Union.
The most insecure moment in the history of nuclear weapons.
For over 40 years, the United States led the West in the struggle against communism. It forced all nations to live under the specter of nuclear destruction. That confrontation is now over.
Stalsk 12
is a town located in northern Siberia. A teenage Andrei Sator is contracted to find parts of a scattered nuclear warhead buried beneath the rubble in the wake of an explosion. Fear of radiation poisoning just eliminates the competition.
Nobody else even bit. They thought it was a death sentence.
Sator unearths a metal capsule filled with unmarked gold bars and a set of instructions miraculously intended specifically just for him. First, he must kill anyone who witnessed this discovery and claim it for himself.
I staked my claim in the new Russia.
Then, use all the information in the capsule to gain wealth, power and influence, as these are the results of events that have yet to come. It tells him everything. Historical moments, investment advice, and probably even a copy of the sports almanac.
Got a little present for you. Something that'll make you rich. You want to be rich, don't you? You see this book? This book tells the future. Tells the results of every major sports event till the end of the century. Football, baseball, horse races, boxing. The information in here is worth millions, and I'm giving it to you.
And Sator's all like,
well, that's very nice, thank you very much.
This information and material has been sent back in time to Sator from posterity. Sator then exchanges the gold for a temporary loan at a place that won't ask questions if the gold leaps from the floor onto the table.
I just bought a giant room full of gold coins and I'm gonna dive into it like Scrooge McDuck.
He tells him he'll be back for these specific gold bars and do not touch them.
Ah! It's not a liquid! It's a great many pieces of solid matter that form a hard floor-like surface! Ah!
Andrei Sator has now been officially recruited by an organisation in the future, and they are providing him with the resources to complete a task that future generations can benefit from. His mission, using the future's specific and precise instructions, is to build machines called turnstiles. Turnstiles emit a form of inverse radiation triggered by a nuclear fission process discovered by scientists in the future. And a turnstile chamber can invert the entropy of objects and people. This essentially reverses the way that object or that person experiences linear time. Lord Kelvin would call this a Maxwell's demon summoner.
You opened it. We came.
It's just a puzzle box!
Oh no. It is a means to summon us.
Now this is, however, not time travel in the conventional or traditional sense. Strap in, because the temporal concept we're about to discuss is a little bit different. The classic time travel method uses a theoretical wormhole that bridges 2 points in space and time.
It's like a kind of hole in space.
I'll show you how it works.
Imagine for a minute that this piece of paper, attractive piece of paper, represents space-time, and you want to get from point A here to point B there. Now, what's the shortest distance between 2 points?
A straight line.
Wrong.
It's too far, right?
Mm-hmm. Shortest distance between 2 points is 0.
So a wormhole bends space like this.
It folds space so that point A and point B coexist in the same space and time.
So you can take a shortcut through a higher dimension.
When this craft passes through the gateway, space returns to normal.
To show that, they've turned three-dimensional space into 2 dimensions, which turns a wormhole into 2 dimensions. A circle. What's a circle in 3 dimensions? Sphere. Exactly. A spherical hole.
For fuck's sake, Doc, help us out here.
I'll show you how it works.
You have to pick your coordinates.
First, you turn the time circuits on. This readout tells you where you're going, this one tells you where you are, this one tells you where you were. You input your destination time on this keypad.
Then in theory, you set your destination. And using your craft and portal, you can now travel to and fro between the 2 points in space and time. Some theorise that a vehicle wouldn't even be essential, depending on the method you use, but let's be honest, it would be advised. In the words of Tesla, science is not an exact science, so you could get unlucky.
Coming through the portal, you're stuck in a time warp.
Freeze it. But inversion is not time travel in the traditional sense.
Stay with me.
I'm going to try to break down some of the mechanics in the film Tenet. Tenet's not a film about time travel in the conventional sense. It's a film about the direction of time, and that's defined by a thing called entropy. All laws of physics are symmetrical. They're all identical, whichever direction time is running in, other than entropy. And there's debate in the world of physics as to whether that defines the direction of time or whether it just shows the direction of time, whether it's a cause of it or whether it's a product. Tenet takes on this idea as entropy is the cause. What's happening in Tenet is rather than just moving backwards and forwards in time, machines have been developed that can change the direction of time for an object or a person. So you're mixing the two directions of time. You don't have to view cause and effect as defined by one coming before the other. There's nothing in the laws of physics that suggests you couldn't look at time in a different direction. For that reason, a lot of Tenet is constructed like the title as a palindrome, so it reads the same forwards and backwards.
Let's begin with the basics, time and the way we perceive it.
Well, let's just say for argument's sake.
Imagine time is the A side of a tape that's running inside a cassette.
You kids don't know what I'm talking about.
Now, if the tape gets twisted, you're going to hear side B of that tape simultaneously, but it's muffled and it's going to be in reverse. Kind of like this.
Drop it!
Side A. Twist the tape. Side B. Side A is regular forward time. It starts with the Big Bang, entropy increasing all the way to the big crunch, which is the end of time. And that's the end of side A. Side B of the time tape is running simultaneously just on the other side and travelling in reverse. We can only experience linear time on side A, increasing entropy while releasing energy, getting older, constantly progressing forward, travelling through space and time, slave to the laws of cause and effect. Action, reaction. There are some things you just can't do with the time tape.
We ought to just videotape this, play it back in slow motion.
Can't do that. And no, you can't pause time either.
Hey! What the fuck?
And before you ask...
No, don't it eat the tape! Fast forward eats the fucking tape! I'm supposed to know it eats the tape! The only piece of evidence in your shitty car ate the tape? Fucking car sucks. Just shut the fuck up! Shut your car the fuck up. This is fucking ruined. I'm gonna crush your nuts. Oh, look at this. This is ruined, I swear to God. Fast forward eats the tape.
You got it?
Yeah.
Nah, I didn't think so.
All right, let's run it backwards.
Get off my desk.
However, using a turnstile to invert an object or a person essentially means you can step into the machine on side A, which can open a door to the reverse B side of the time tape, making you disappear from a bystander's POV. Kinda similar to those twin opposing horizontal travelators that we use every day at the airport. While inverted, talking to people sounds something like this.
I love you in Wall Street!
Oh, and another thing. Whilst inverted, you'll have to bring your own oxygen tank and a mask with you, as regular air won't flow through the inverted person's lungs while they're on side B of the time tape. Try to deliver any exposition or dialogue without your mask on, and getting back in a turnstile will make you reappear out of nowhere on side A of the time tape, and then you can take off your mask and breathe easy. It's a door to our reverse timeline, it's not a portal. You can't just jump to a specific point in three-dimensional space and time. Inverting back a week will take living 7 days in reverse with an oxygen mask on side B of the time tape. Now, this only reverses the way that you experience chronology. No matter how many times you go through this process, your body will continue to age as normal. A turnstile is not a Benjamin Button machine.
Time travel shit just fries your brain like an egg.
Stay with me.
After he's built the turnstiles, one set for inverting and another for reverting back to normal, Sator must now bury the empty capsule with a message in it for future generations. Now, because it was buried in their ancestors' past, posterity can now dig it up in the future, seemingly instantaneous. 90 Sator then leaves a message on an answering machine. The moment he leaves the message in the present, it is received by his future handlers who always had it thanks to Sator recording it in their past. It's at this moment when Sator's turnstiles activate in the 90s. Inverted gold appears in the blue backwards chamber, and regular unmarked gold appears in the red forwards chamber. Sator buries the inverted gold to maintain its world line Back to the Future intact. He can take the regular forward gold, cash it in, then spend, gamble and invest the funds for astronomical returns, but first, he must buy back the original inverted gold bars from the discretionary loan business and rebury them back at Stars 12 in a regular capsule where he originally found it. This process will let the gold bars maintain their chronological timeline from the future back into the past and vice versa.
Oh, fuck off.
It's pretty confusing, right? Does it make you feel bored or stupid? Well, here's Margot Robbie in a bubble bath to explain.
Okay, you fucknuts, here's what's going on here. You've heard the term, pull yourselves up by your bootstraps, right? Well, back in 1834, the saying was to pull oneself up over a fence by one's own bootstraps. It's a long way of saying that's fucking impossible. It's paradoxical bootstrap activity, quite frankly, and...
That does not make sense!
Now, theoretically, if an object was sent back in time, it would create an infinite loop where the object has no observable origin anymore. This fucker now exists without ever being created.
Now think about it. That does not make sense.
For example, if someone sent a Blu-ray copy of Tenet back in time to Christopher Nolan before he even wrote, filmed or directed it, this movie would now be a paradoxical object that exists without its creator.
Does it make sense? No.
This is what's called the motherfucking bootstrap paradox.
Does that make sense? Ladies and gentlemen, I am not making any sense. None of this makes sense.
Stay with me.
Now, pay attention, dickheads. With all that in mind, Sator has to sell and buy the gold 2 times.
Twice.
So the gold's journey maintains its consistency from both perspectives. So in chronological order moving, the events play out as follows. From Sator's point of view, he first digs up the unmarked gold in 1992 at Stars 12 as a teenager, temporarily trades it in and then uses the cash to get rich, powerful and influential, establishing himself. He then, at some point later, buys back the original inverted gold and finally reburies it in secrecy at Stars 12 in the exact same spot where he found it for his future bosses to dig up generations from now.
You got it?
Yeah. Good.
Alright, let's run it backwards.
Yes, Now, in reverse, from the inverted gold's point of view, the events unfolded like this. Generations from now, Sator's bosses in the future invert gold and bury it at Stars 12. It then travelled into the past and to establish Sator dug it up. He then sold it and over time lost all of his money, power and influence as he became poorer. He then repurchased the inverted gold back with his remaining funds and reburied it at Stars 12 as a teenager back in 1992, where the gold will remain buried until the beginning of the Earth's timeline, and as the Earth unforms it will float off into space.
Show me again.
You fucking numbskull. It's like this. From a bird's eye view, the gold has been in the ground since the Earth was created all the way through the planet's chronological timeline until it's dug up in the 1990s. Shortly after, it's repackaged and then reburied to be dug up in the future by Sator's bosses. At no point in the timeline does the untraceable, unmarked gold vanish. The fact is, this process keeps the gold's journey palindromic as the events have now played out the same whether you run the timeline forwards or backwards.
Aha! For that reason, a lot of Tenet is constructed like the title as a palindrome, so reads the same forwards and backwards.
Oh, and in case you fuckwits are actually wondering, what the f***? The reason why the inverted bootstrap gold and the regular forward gold appear in the activated blue and red turnstile chambers simultaneously?
Both emerged at the same moment?
Yeah.
Well, it's because the inverted gold and the regular gold are actually the same set of gold bars.
Stay with me.
The inverted gold in the blue turnstile chamber was put in there by posterity and has been travelling back in time to this very moment. And the red chamber's contents are actually the mirror image of those gold bars reverting back to normal. Thus, to our eyes,
both emerged at the same moment?
Yeah.
So in order for Sator to now make his reverted regular forward gold bars legitimate in our timeline, he must bury the inverted gold that appeared in the blue turnstile chamber in order to send it
back to the future.
The inverted gold from the future's POV will be the same, just in reverse.
Alright, let's run it backwards.
Sator's future bosses invert the gold, bury it, sending it underground and into the past. It's then dug up by Sator, who then puts it into the blue turnstile chamber and reverts it back to normal, so he can now cash it in.
Show me the money!
So this cunt can start flexing.
Show me the money!
Jackpot, baby! Andre Sator has now just become the Warren Buffett of the palindromic futures market. Got it? Okay.
So basically...
everything is backwards here.
Now fuck off.
Thank you, Margot.
Now, where was I?
The information in the capsule from the future also contains detailed instructions on how to perform a temporal pincer movement. This is the simplest visual example of a time pincer move.
Hey!
And the mechanics of how it works.
Hey! I thought that was you!
How you doing?
Hey! Now don't you tell me you don't remember me, because I sure as heck fire remember you.
Who is this man? Not a chance.
Ned!
Who?
Ryerson!
Who?
Needle-nosed Ned the head. Come on, buddy. It is so good to see you. What are you doing for dinner?
Something else. It's been great seeing you, Needlehead. Take care.
Lies. Watch out for that first step. It's a doozy.
Fucking Ned. Oh, if you're like me and you ain't having that, you'll get in the turnstile and invert your entropy.
Perfectly possible that time starts running in the opposite direction as well.
From your point of view.
So is this Earth? Oh, it's Earth, all right. Only Earth where time's going backwards.
Now you'll have to reverse back through the entire event in real time, but for repetition's sake, let's just skip a bunch of that. You will look like an asthmatic with a funny walk. Just tell this backwards, bitch. Travel back to that event, getting another turnstile for reverting back to normal. And you can now re-enter the event, knowing everything and ready to paradox the fuck out.
Hey!
Ned?
You can now use your time tech powers for good or evil, depending on which way you're inclined.
Warning.
Whilst inverted, do not come into contact with your forward self.
Same matter can occupy some space.
If your atomic particles come into contact with one another, annihilation. Protective clothing with barriers is highly recommended. Employ some henchmen and you won't have to do it alone. Now he has a team working for him. Red team can go forward through an event. Sator can then wait by the turnstiles, monitoring what happens, whilst Red team relays the specifics of the event back to him. Sator can then enter the turnstile and invert backwards through that same event that has just taken place, knowing everything and now seeing it rewound for himself. He can now get in another turnstile, reverting back to normal, completing the task before the event even takes place, changing the outcome before it even occurs. This inverted butterfly effect makes effect come before the cause, making a turnstile a paradox creating machine. A dead drop is a dead letterbox method of espionage tradecraft used by spies. It is a way for case handlers and agents to pass each other items and information using secret locations to avoid meeting whilst maintaining operational security. The future instructs Sator to build 9 sets of turnstiles in 9 specific locations around the globe near 9 nuclear containment facilities. Sator is given the keys to the kingdom of wealth, power and influence to initiate the future's final solution. The main campaign of Sator's game is to locate 9 hidden inverted pieces of a radioactive puzzle and assemble them into a MacGuffin-type artifact. When he sends the configured item into the future by burying it at a dead drop in Stars 12, posterity will dig it up generations from now, and it will give them the ability to fully invert.
Everybody knows you never go full for the eventually ended up right.
We're off backwards, aren't we?
To be clear, our future antagonists don't want to invert objects or people, they want to invert the entire world around us. And to find out why...
Welcome to the future.
Our dickhead descendants' ultimate goal is to rewind the entropy and history of the world to undo the damage that we, their ancestors, did to the planet. In the future, global warming and pollution has caused their sea levels to rise and their oceans to run dry in a near unbreathable atmosphere of particulates and blight. The Greta Thunbergs of the future have become so desperate for survival they're willing to rewind chronology in order to reverse the destruction of the natural environment.
How dare you?
Our super woke great-great-grandchildren's generation, in their own misguided and twisted way, are trying to affect the cause in the past to give the world a future and save it.
Never go for it, you wolf workman.
But as I mentioned earlier, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
You went forward, and you wolf man.
Back in the mid-90s, Sator emerges from the new Russia and natural gas billionaire with power, connections and influence. He does this by playing governments and intelligence agencies off against one another to leverage all situations to his advantage. Sator uses time pincer moves with knowledge of the future. He also covertly becomes an international arms dealer under the facade of being a wealthy gas line owner.
Guns. Lots of
Guns. Plutonium!
Plutonium. Wait a minute.
Side note, in 1998, this creepy wannabe author gets a case of writer's block and decides to start following random strangers about for inspiration and material regarding his book. But I digress. 3 years later, September the 11th, 2001. Soon after the 9/11 attacks, President George W. Bush works with the CIA to launch an operation against Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. The director of the CIA at this time is a man named George Tenet.
Coincidence? I think not!
2008. Catherine Barton, an art appraiser and niece of Sir Frederick Barton, meets Sator at an auction. With future knowledge, he uses temporal pincers to manipulate her into a sexy relationship.
Trying to get in your knickers.
You're hard. 2009, the couple marry. 2010, Kat and Sator's son is born. They name him
Maximilian.
Or Max for short. With his feet well and truly under the table in the British aristocracy through Kat and his help from the future, Sator uses his wealth and his wife's connections to amass a client list of rich art investors who deal in tangible assets. As instructed, Sator creates a network of free ports.
You know what a free port is?
A storage facility for art that was acquired.
But not yet taxed.
Without it technically entering the country, clients can view their art and antiquities without taxation stored in a bonded warehouse. The business is of course a front. These free ports are in airports located near 9 nuclear containment facilities, and they are also where he has built turnstiles in secret. Inside are 2 chambers separated by a proving window. Whilst approaching the red turnstile, you must check the blue inverted room for your backward self by looking through the proving window. Remember, if you do not see yourself reverse exit the machine through the glass, do not enter the machine at all, because it means you do not make it out. The blue inverted room is equipped with oxygen tanks and masks for when you leave the building. These secret facilities are designed like pentagons to stop you coming into contact with your forward self. Well, we've all seen how that turns out. The Russian businessman builds the free ports via a construction company that he owns named Rotas, which is Sator backwards. Through his relationships in high society, he makes contact with British intelligence agencies and gains favour with them via pincer moves. This power-mad, now Anglo-Russian, is a jealous, wife-beating sociopath with all the trappings of a Bond villain. Let's go down the list. Supervillain's lair?
Check.
Loyal henchman?
Check. What you do to yourself before you wreck yourself? Check.
A dastardly plan to assemble and activate a super weapon in the form of a paradox machine?
This son of bitch all night, it chick.
Sometime later, our battered wife Kat gets a little flirty with a Spaniard colleague named Thomas Orepo. With knowledge of the future, control freak Sator kills 2 birds with 1 stone. First, he buys a rare Goya painting from Orepo through Catherine, knowing it is in fact a fake. The jealous Russian antagonist uses this defrauding as an excuse to have the fraudster killed. Sator and his main henchman Volkov do something super fucked up to Orepo to send a message to any would-be adulterers.
Only this one weren't so quick, this one took time. How did he die? Technically, asphyxiation by his own genitalia.
Not so technically.
Somebody cut his dick off, stuffed it in his mouth, and choked him to death.
It turns out the cat didn't even know that the painting was fake, But in the eyes of her husband, her one true crime was being a slag.
She belongs to the streets.
Thomas and I became close, maybe too close. I failed. Andre can't conceive of failure and a betrayal.
Kat now lives in fear of Sator and a penitentiary that he threatens her with on a daily basis.
He threatened me with police, prison, the works.
The couple that appear to have everything become estranged.
The drawing is his hold over me.
This is a super toxic couple that fucking hates one another.
He controls me. My contact with my son, everything.
The only love they share is for their son, Max.
Maximilian.
Over the years, Sator, with knowledge of future events, uses pincer moves to locate and acquire 8 pieces of the inverted artifact. The future then sends him the suspected location of the 9th and final piece of the puzzle. Using 2020's news articles, posterity informs Sator that the 9th piece will be at the Kiev Opera House in the Ukraine. He knows that a Russian separatist terrorist group will take hostages at the opera and that the Ukrainian SWAT team will use knockout gas to subdue the audience and the terrorists. Sator places a few of his henchmen undercover in the Russian separatist group with oxygen masks, guns, and the exact time that the knockout gas will be used. 5 p.m. The CIA have a deep cover agent known as the well-dressed man in the VIP box of the Opera House who is attempting to buy weapons-grade plutonium-241 from a Russian official on Ukrainian soil. Now, before this event even takes place on the 14th, exactly halfway through the month, the CIA are anonymously informed that the terrorists will use the siege as a distraction. Their mission is to kill the well-dressed man and steal the plutonium from him.
Give it up, man. Yo, give up your shit.
No one except Sator knows that the plutonium-241 is actually the 9th piece of the future's WMD. The Central Intelligence Agency sends an undercover group of Americans led by the protagonist to retrieve the plutonium and extract the well-dressed man, or kill him before he's captured and tortured for information. Ukrainian assets of the CIA escort the American agents to the Kiev Opera siege disguised in full SWAT gear, ready to infiltrate the cavalry when they arrive at the scene. And that's the end of part 1. If you haven't seen Christopher Nolan's Tenet, for fuck's sake, go watch it, then come back here for part 2, The Present. So hit the bell, like the video and sub to the channel, it helps me in the algorithm.
Last time it was no tennis.